everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Olivia. If this is your first time, then welcome, and if it's not, then welcome back. So today's video is going to be a follow-on video from a video I made just over a year ago, and I'm going to be talking about angular cheilitis, lip eczema, and what my sort of most practical top tips are. So first of all, let's talk about what is angular cheilitis. So cheilitis is basically any kind of inflammation of the lips, and angular cheilitis specifically is talking about the corners or the angles of your mouth. So you'll get sort of redness, you'll get soreness and cracks. It can be dry, it can be itchy. It's really uncomfortable, and it's often quite difficult to treat because it's just such a sensitive area. So angular cheilitis can be caused by a number of different things. For example, it could be a fungal or a yeast infection. You could have vitamin deficiencies. It could just be irritations from saliva kind of collecting there. If you have diabetes, if you take an antibiotic. So there's lots of different things that could be causing your angular cheilitis. I personally suffer from something called eczematous angular cheilitis, which is basically angular cheilitis that is caused by eczema, because I suffer from atopic dermatitis. Atopic meaning that it is chronic eczema. It's not eczema that you don't just get an occasional rash. I get it all over my body. And I've had angular cheilitis or eczematous angular cheilitis since I was 11, so that's almost 20 years ago now. So I started developing this eczematous angular cheilitis, or this lip eczema, after I had a reaction to just like a normal lip balm when I was about 11. And since then, it's just been incredibly difficult to treat. Very difficult when I was a teenager, and when I was growing up, it really sort of impacted my self-esteem and how I felt about myself and my appearance. I went to every single doctor, every single dermatologist under the sun, and you cannot imagine how many different lip balms and treatments and creams that I've been recommended and given and prescribed, and nothing really seemed to work for me. The only thing that worked for me is when I managed to cure it by myself completely naturally, didn't use any creams or any ointments. So I did make a video on that. If you haven't seen that video, I do recommend you checking that out. So I'll leave a link up here somewhere. Hopefully you can take some inspiration from some of the tips I give you in there. In this video, I actually want to share with you some very practical tips when you are dealing with this lip eczema or this angular cheilitis. Most of the things I'm going to be talking about are mostly to do with eczema, but I think some of these things should be relevant if you're suffering from angular cheilitis for other reasons. Having said this though, I don't want to disparage, the medical system at all. I do really highly recommend that you actually go and see your doctor and actually find out what that root cause of your angular cheilitis is, because if it is, for example, a yeast infection or a fungal infection, you will need an antifungal cream for that. So I just want to make a huge caveat on that. It's really important that you do see your doctor so at least you kind of know what you're dealing with. Okay, so my first tip, and this is the tip, if you decide to click out of this video after this one tip, please just write this down, just take this one home with you, and that is do not pick. Do not pick your lips, do not scratch them, do not get rid of all those like little horrible skin flakes and things that you'll get around there. Just don't touch them. Picking your lips is a terrible habit. You have a compromised skin barrier around your lips, which is sensitive skin anyway. If you are picking at your lips, it is really like that when you sort of pull off those bits of dead skin, you are going to be taking off with you some of the good skin. Of course, if you have dead skin around your lips, there are ways that you can get rid of this without picking at it. I would say if you just lightly brush it, sometimes that really helps. I also have recommended in my other video that you use just a very clean and a soft toothbrush. You can go very gently around it that way, but please, whatever you do, do not use your nails, do not pick the skin off. I used to do it all the time. It became like a compulsive habit, but that is the absolute worst thing that you can do. So my second tip is you need to keep the areas dry. You need to keep both your lips if you have lip eczema, and if you have angular cheilitis, you want to keep it dry from saliva, from anytime you drink anything. The way that I do this is that if you can use just a little cotton wool bud to just dab the area. This is really important because if it is damp and if it's moist, it's going to be more likely that it gets irritated. It also makes it more prone to infections and gathering bacteria and things like that. So you really want to try and keep this area as dry as you possibly can. My third tip is you want to keep it clean. As well as keep it dry, you want to keep it clean. So this mostly refers to the food that you're eating. So when you eat, you might get a little bit of food coming into the corners of your mouth. It's really important that you keep this clean. I like to just use some plain water to wash it off if I need to. I also like to do an apple cider vinegar solution to just dab on the area. I have got a video on how to do that as well, so I'll leave a little link up there as well, so you can have a look at those when you finish watching this video, obviously. But this is important as well. Similar to my second tip is just you want to reduce the amount of irritation and reduce the risk of creating any more infection or any more bacteria gathering there. So keeping it dry and keeping it clean, those things are connected. So my fourth tip is for those of you who have very dry lips that are prone to cracking and bleeding and becoming very painful. I find that this often happens before you're going to eat or if you're going somewhere where you're going to be moving your mouth a lot. And my tip to do this is to lubricate it with castor oil. My eczema came back a few months ago around my lips because I just wasn't looking after my diet and my lifestyle. So I've been using this tip quite recently. First, I like to dab the areas where they are prone to cracking, so it's usually around the corners as well as sometimes on my bottom lip. So I dab that area with some water and then make sure it's clean, and then I put a little bit of castor oil on it so that I can sort of move my mouth around and eat without it sort of cracking and becoming very painful. My fifth tip is for those of you who do tend to get those cracks and sometimes they bleed and they can scab over. If you get that, then I like to clean it with just some cotton wool, a little bit of water, a little bit of cotton wool. I usually only really do this once a day, so perhaps in the morning if necessary. Obviously it's not always necessary. And again, all I do is plain water, dab it on the area, and I sort of very, very gently rub on the scabs. You might still see like a little bit of a cut, but the actual dark scab should start to disappear, and it just makes it look a little bit less unsightly. If you are wearing makeup and things like that, it means it won't collect around the scab. This isn't for very, very big scabs. This is just for like the little spot ones that you might get here and there. If you have very, very big scabs, I definitely don't recommend wearing makeup. So my sixth tip is about what I just mentioned, which is makeup. So as much as possible, I do tend to leave it and not use any makeup, but sometimes it is nice to use it, and I personally have never found an issue. I don't have reactions to makeup. However, I am very careful about the actual products that I do use there. I make sure that I use very natural, quite light makeup. At the moment, I'm using something called sauce, which means cow sauce. I've just realized it's Swedish. I'm Swedish. That's so weird. This is literally just a tinted face oil. I got it in a natural beauty shop, which I love in London, called Content Beauty Wellbeing. So if you live in London, definitely go check that place out. If you need something a little bit thicker, I really recommend the Era Perez Oat Milk Foundation. I find that both of these are actually they feel really nice because they're both very moisturizing, nothing chemical in it, there's nothing irritating in it at all. Sometimes I actually find that a little bit of makeup actually makes it feel a little bit better. But again, just use your judgment there. If your lips are terrible and if they're very flaky and if they're bleeding and they're very sore around there, and I think also especially if you have an infection around there, I definitely wouldn't recommend using any makeup. So my tip number 7 is the only thing that you can drink, and I want you to listen really hard now, there are no exceptions to this rule, only water and only herbal teas. And a lot of people come to me saying, yeah, but what about smoothies? What about this juice? What about this? No. If you can drink it, if it is a liquid and it is not water and it is not a herbal tea, you're not drinking it. There's lots of reasons why I've made this very blanket rule. Fizzy drinks or sodas, you shouldn't be drinking anyway, it's terrible for you. It spikes your blood sugar, it's bad for inflammation in your body generally. If you have coffee, again, caffeine is very strong. If you want to keep things very mild internally, I don't care what it is. If it's not water and if it's not herbal tea, don't drink it. Got it. I'm also going to be making a very detailed video about what and how you should be eating when you have lip eczema and or angular cheilitis. There's so much to go into that one, I can't make this all here. So if you do want to see that video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I think there's a bell button as well that you're supposed to press, so press that as well so you actually get notified when my new videos come out. So my next tip number 8 is a little bit tricky for some people depending on where you are in the world, and that is to get some sunshine on your face, on your lips. It really, really will help to improve your skin. And I'm sure everyone who has eczema, everyone who has skin problems will say the same thing. Obviously, you know, be careful with the rest of your face, put on SPF if you don't want those wrinkles, but in that area, you really want to get some sunshine on it. If you are in a place where you're not getting any sun, take a really good quality vitamin D. So really invest in that. It's super important. You'll notice the difference in your hair, your skin, your nails. Please, please, please just invest in some really good quality vitamin D. My tip number 9 is also related to weather. When it's cold, your lips become very exposed. So you want to try and protect them as much as you can. I use castor oil just to kind of protect them when it is very cold outside. I also think it's really important to protect it from damp. Often when it's cold outside, for some reason it gets very damp indoors. Make sure that you have radiators on, make sure you have the heating on, and it's not damp inside your flat. Dampness and coldness, they're not gonna help your skin, they're not gonna help your lips to get better. My final tip is something which is really important for anyone who has eczema, skin problems, anything like this. You wanna rest as much as you can, you wanna reduce stress as much as you can. Sometimes that means, you know, taking yourself away for a few days and having a bit of a staycation. I know that I personally, especially because it is your lip area, it can really sort of harm your self-esteem. That in itself, seeing people, sometimes used to cause me a lot of stress. So I find that when it's really bad, I do just kind of like to sort of stay indoors, resting up, you know, looking after yourself in that way. It will also help to protect yourself if it's cold outside. If you can, take some time to just sort of heal and have a good time of it. Watch some films, read some books. So those are my 10 practical tips on how to deal with lip eczema, eczematus, angular cheilitis, or angular cheilitis in general. If you have any tips and advice that you want to share, then please do, because I think that we all know how much lip eczema, angular cheilitis really sucks. So I think other people would definitely appreciate that. If you want to leave any other advice down in the comments down below. If you want to subscribe to my channel, find out how to get your best skin and your best hair for problematic people like me, then please do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you again very soon for another video. Bye!